Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I haven't had this guy on in a while. Besides, I guess you're in vlogs, so
But it feels like we haven't sat down and done a video together for quite a while.
Right. What we want to talk about today is a driving down debt update because a few of you have asked, and I just thought it would be interesting to update you. Quite honestly, to jump right into it, last month was a shit show for us. In July, we ended up driving home, which you guys have seen already if you watched any of the vlogs, but we drove home for like a couple of weeks, 2.5 weeks-ish.
Yeah.
And we drove back to the Midwest, stayed throughout different parts of Wisconsin and Illinois with both of our families. So we didn't have, I think it was like 3 weekends to do the...
Right, yeah, and like the front and the back end of it.
Yeah.
So
I guess just as a reminder for those of you that might be new here, don't know what we're talking about, driving down debt is basically this little
initiative.
yeah, and money series that we do just occasionally, kind of just updating you, but we started doing food delivery in the Raleigh area as a way to drive down our debt and to try to minimize it and put on some extra payments. And actually in the last couple of months, we haven't really been able to do that. So
nope.
Like I said, one of the biggest reasons was because we were gone. So initially what we did in June, right, is all the money from June we actually put into our normal budget because we wanted the extra money for July because we both work for ourselves. So being out of work for almost 3 weeks meant we weren't getting paid.
No such thing as paid vacation time.
Right. Yeah. You don't get paid vacation time when you own your own business, especially in the early stages of them. That was a big thing that we did, was we put all that money from June. I don't remember how much it was, but I can put it on the screen here. However much we made in June is what we put toward the budget in July. But
basically what this comes down to is it's really easy to come up with excuses to not drive on weekend evenings if you don't need to.
Right.
And that's been the shift.
Yeah. So I think that's the good and bad part about doing a food delivery service or doing Uber or Lyft or something like that. The good part is that you get to choose your hours. So if you have time and want to go and drive on a Friday, you can. But the bad part is it's not a real job in the sense that if you don't go, you're not going to get in trouble. It's not like you had a shift at work or something like that. So really, it's a ton of self...
it's just discipline to get up and go do it. There's always a convenient excuse. So yeah, I guess kind of depends on where you want to go from here. But some of the things that have been really helpful to me are doing things like setting goals. And I think we talked about that a little bit in one of the last videos. But yeah, again, if it doesn't feel super pressing sometimes, or other things just feel like they take precedent, then...
Ben has been doing most of it on his own. So I would go with him in the beginning, especially I went with him quite a bit, and I would drive and he would kind of do all the orders because the account is under his name. And then it just slowed down a little bit. I think I liked having a little bit of time by myself in the house where he wasn't home. And I think that he was kind of enjoying being out on his own a little bit. And then, so it's definitely shifted to being more of your job versus me being involved, though it is something I want to go with you a little bit more than I have been, but he's been going a lot more, if you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what I was going to say, is because it did shift a little bit just in terms of the purpose and the energy behind it. So I pretty much stepped up and was like, I'll do this. If you want to come with, great, but I'm kind of taking it on as my thing because we currently need it for another stream of income.
Right.
So we cannot put it, it's not towards debt anymore.
It's not currently driving down debt.
No, because of we need the income from it. So I've essentially been treating it as a part-time job, doing anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a weekend. for me, because I do like having, like I said, goals are helpful. Just being able to see numbers and things like that. Like if I go out and want to make $100 one night or whatever, I kind of have a rough idea of how long I need to drive to do that, or like as I'm driving, where I'm at. And so, yeah, so that's been really helpful, and just kind of what we've been doing. And like since we've gotten back from being home. So this is what, like three weeks or so now into us being back. And that's what it'll continue to look like for the short term, at least this month of August for sure. And then we'll kind of see just where money's at going forward from there, right?
Right, yeah. We've kind of hit a sticky spot where we had quite a bit of savings saved up from when I left my job. And the last couple of months have just been way beyond what we had anticipated as far as expenses. And then both of our businesses have kind of scaled back a little bit in the time being. Like I scaled back with one of my clients, and
I say you had like one or two, right? And then
right, yeah, well, one technically that I've lost, and then I scaled back hours with one now.
Yeah.
And then obviously with like I only worked half the month last month, so I also had like less of an income coming in. So that, we dug into savings for that a little bit, and we're kind of in a spot with our savings now where it's a little scary. Before we always had this big nest egg that we weren't
not big,
but big to us. It was big to us. We never had that much money in savings.
I just think a lot of people think that like 40 or 50 grand is like a big nest egg.
We had 10 grand.
Right.
Like
so I'm
just
saying
under 10 grand. Yeah.
Right. I'm like blushing. I'm like getting like passionate about this. Like for a lot of people, 10 grand is not big.
Right. I guess for someone like me who has never
relative,
had much of a
right, relative to like what
big.
we know and what our financial situation has been.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And we didn't have to dig into it for a while, which was really good. We actually thought it was going to be the opposite. When I left my job, we thought there's going to be a couple of months where I didn't have any clients and we would have to kind of use it during that time.
Yeah.
But it actually wasn't like that. I ended up getting clients pretty quickly, but now we're kind of moving into the space where every month we've either had, stimulus checks, or we've had like a little bit of extra tax refund coming in. And then we had a couple of months where we didn't have that. And we were like, oh shit, savings goes quickly if you're, having to use some every month. So.
Right. And I offboarded like a handful of one-on-one clients.
Your group coaching.
Yeah, I did a group coaching thing, but it was at a beta rate, and so it wasn't even like a full amount of income. And it was the first time I ran it, so I was like putting a lot of time and my energy into that. And so like with all that, like I loved it and it was awesome. So now I'm like kind of pivoting and shifting my business and what that's gonna look like, and I'm starting like community stuff from the ground up. And like I know that's like the longer term thing for me, but because of that, because I haven't focused on my one-on-one business and it's not something that I want to put a ton of effort and energy into going forwards, there's just
growing
things
like
change.
New clients, right? You already have some,
right? So yeah, like things are just, there's a lot of things kind of shifting right now. So in the midst of that, it's just kind of been like, all right, what do we do to, patch these holes? And so that's where this has come in. Yeah,
and we've done things like, sorry, I'm sure this whole video you've heard the dryer in the background, which is going to drive me nuts in editing. But if you can hear it right now, I'm sorry, because it would drive me crazy. But we've looked into different types of like part-time jobs and like what we can do. I actually was offered a part-time job, but a lot of times it's hard because it would take me out of the house. It would, it was only like a very small amount an hour next to what I can make at home. So we're kind of trying to figure out different ways. Like for me, if I can find another 1 or 2 clients, or if I could find like a part-time work from home job, that would make sense for me to onboard, because I can just charge more an hour than if I were to go work at a store somewhere and make $11-12 an hour. And have to be outside of the house, and then, you know, again, with like having chronic illness, that's something that I'm worried about, is like, if I get a migraine, I can not work for part of the day and then work later in the day or work on the weekend. Whereas if you have a job that you have to show up to, not as easy to do that. So that was something that I ended up not doing. But this thing, like, you know, continuing to do food delivery and being able to do it on your own time. And right now, like I said, he's treating it more as like a very part-time position. So he's going four-ish times a week and for a good amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of been his focus. And then you've had some other stuff coming into the mix too, but
right. Yeah, got some football opportunities coming up with an organization I'm like super excited about. It's coming up this fall, so there might be some opportunities there. And with that, I actually wanted to point out that this is a lifestyle choice for us. For a lot of people, it's kind of like, it would be like a simple or like obvious solution or thing to do to like, okay, we'll just go get a full-time job. Like, just do this. Both of us have worked very hard to get to the place where we're at, to not be working a full-time job. We've both worked to have this type of lifestyle.
Full-time in the sense of corporate.
Correct, yes.
I would say that you still work full-time hours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I just kind of want to like throw that out there, that this is a choice. Like, we could go back and do that. Like, I don't like
looked into it. I mean, I've looked into different types of work from home jobs and stuff, and I've focused, for me personally, that if something came in and seemed like a good opportunity, even, you know, short term or long term, that it would be something that I would be open to if it were a work from home job. But yeah.
Yeah. So just want to throw that out there, and with kind of like all the things that we mentioned, we are more willing to kind of like cobble together a few different streams of income.
Which is what we prefer anyway.
Right, exactly. If we can maintain more of like a flexible, free kind of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So I just want to throw that out there, because I think for a lot of people that this isn't, well, for one, I totally see you and hear you and feel you if you're forced into this and you have to like work multiple jobs to make ends meet.
Right.
But at the same time, this just isn't like a route that is shown to us or talked about. It's kind of like stigmatized, and it's looked down upon and kind of like judged of like, oh, you don't have your shit together. You're working like multiple jobs. You don't have just like one like full-time corporate job that you're doing.
Yeah, you see people with like online businesses and stuff who are like already making like 10, 15, 20 grand months, and everybody's like, oh, that's just what happens. And for some people it is. Like, some people get like a quick break, and they work really, really hard, and that's what happens, and that's just not what has happened for us. But that is something that we, you know, are still striving toward, I guess.
Yeah. So I just wanted to offer that if that feels right to you, or like both of us, like just working in a full-time corporate job just feels like so misaligned from like who you are and what you want, that there is another way of doing things. And yes, it's a little bit messier. Yes, it's going to be quite a bit different than what most people are doing or talking about.
Yes, it's much more stressful when your savings starts to run out. And I'm not as like 100% against ever going back to a corporate job. I do think that I am 100% against going back to an in-person full-time in-person corporate job, but I would still be open to an opportunity if it was a company that I aligned with. We're just like trying to figure out what to do to continue to make it happen. And if you guys have watched this channel for a really long time, I think when I first started talking on this channel, I talked a lot about like our budget and stuff, because we were in a really rough place with money at that time, because Benjamin had just gone through a sickness and his whole business kind of had to be revamped. And I had just gone through a really big flare with how I was feeling, but I was still working full time. And we were trying to make things work on just one income, basically. And it was really stressful. It was really stressful in our relationship. We're in a similar situation now, but we're trying not to let it divide us, not let it completely ruin our lives the way that it almost did before. We were in a really, really, really rough mental state. And I am also not doing like the whole rainbows and butterflies thing. Like, it's been rough. We've had some rough conversations. We've said some mean things to each other. We have looked at jobs that we weren't interested in doing. And if it comes down to that, hopefully not the like fighting thing, but like figuring out a job in the meantime, then that's what we'll have to do, and that's what we'll do. We'll take care of ourselves in some way. But it's been rough, but we've been really trying to work through it together this time versus we kind of weren't working together last time.
Yeah. Well, and on that point too, it's just like one of those things that, like most things in life, just because like a situation will get better, or if it eventually gets better, if you haven't actually tried to work through the like root level issues in a partnership specifically, then they're still there. Just because they aren't like at the surface, like this situation is like brings them to the surface for us, but they're both like our own money issues are both like, you know, like how we relate to money, how we feel when we're like backed into a corner, and having to provide for ourselves and things like that. And so,
or for each other. Yeah.
Right. So this is just one of those things where we're trying to take the opportunity to, struggle through some of like, or all of the messiness, and trying to change these things now so that when we do have money, because we will, that we can experience that in a much more like really deep-rooted, empowered way, and that these things don't ever surface ever again, basically.
We'll continue to update you guys as it goes, but as of right now, the driving that mostly Benjamin is doing is going straight into our budget. We're kind of using it as Benjamin's part-time job for right now. We're working to both kind of grow our clientele, me with social media and marketing consulting, and Benjamin with his coaching and different, you know, he actually has a lot more streams coming in on his end. So we're
got a lot of irons in the fire, but that doesn't mean they're producing a lot right now.
They're just heating up. So we're hoping then the next few months we'll have better, more exciting news to come. We are hopeful, and I think we both believe that we will get out of this space that we're in right now. And this is just a current lesson that we're in.
I just wanted to quickly add, like, as you're finishing up there, I'm just like getting slightly emotional. For anybody else that's listening to this, watching this, and is going through a hard time or has or whatever, just know that I feel you, and it happens, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And you're gonna make it through. Like, you just keep showing up, keep trying to, work through whatever you need to work through to make it happen. And the other thing I was gonna say is just like, we've said it in other videos when we've talked about this, but it's a really great side hustle. It really is.
The driving.
Yeah, I love driving. It is flexible. It is nights and weekends, so that's the one thing with Uber Eats specifically. That's like when you make the most. But I just like the flexibility it provides, and I pretty much consistently, I mean, I'm sure it's different like by where you are, but more or less make like $20 an hour. And so it's better than a lot of like part-time jobs that you could get. There's like gas money and stuff involved, and I think we might have a link.
Yeah, we'll put a link down below. If you're interested in trying out Uber Eats, basically, it's just a link that you can sign up as well. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're in like a weird period. I feel like on this video, we seem very like happy and like
we're put together today. But please know, at this same table, we have had many crying conversations about what we're doing with our life. So it's definitely a scary period, and we're doing what we can right now. And then,
hopefully the next time we update you, we'll have, there'll be more rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah. Fireworks or champagne bottles.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe down below so you never miss a video. We do lifestyle, occasionally money, all kinds of stuff over here. But
wellness of all sorts.
Wellness of all sorts. So make sure you subscribe, hit that red subscribe button down below and like it if you enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.